You mention the word BDSM and people go run to the fucking hills.
Yeah.
It's like we all practice it and we have all practiced it in some form in our relationships. Even if it's just like a little grab at the hair, little tug of the hair, or a little tap on the bottom, that falls under that BDSM acronym. So it's not something to be frightened about. It's something to be explored, and I think in some ways to be embraced.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting, that we think, to be into BDSM, what you want has to fall into the kink category. And I was in this sort of sexual workshop, and they asked you to step to the center if you identified in a certain way. And they said kinky, and a bunch of people went into the center, and I didn't go. And the instructor looked at me and he was like, Layla. And I was like, what? And he was like, don't you love doing sex rituals in graveyards? And I was like, that's not kink, that's normal.
Well, that's normal for you. But
yes.
do you have kink? Do you feel that you are kinky? Do you have a fetish, for instance?
Well, it's interesting. I don't have a traditional fetish in the sense like I need it to be like this in order to get turned on or in order to have an orgasm. But what is interesting for me is I think that I normalized and became so shameless about what other people would call kinky that I was like, I'm not kinky. And I love like energy play in spaces that evoke death, because it reminds me as a tantrika of the limited nature of our experience, right?
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah. So for me, I'm like, of course I'd hang out in a graveyard. That's what the tantrikas do. That's what the witches do. Why do we do it? We do it to be reminded of death, right? And so that to me is erotic. I think a lot of people would call that kinky, whereas I'm like, oh yeah, that's just spiritual, And so it depends on what we do with it in our head.
I think, and I say this to everybody, anybody that wants a sex room or wants to improve or embody or empower themselves during sex or in a particular place that's just to do with intimacy. If that's what you want, just do it. Don't feel that you're going to be judged by it. What is my cup of tea is not necessarily going to be your cup of tea. Does that make sense? So I think people should just embrace what they love.
Yes.
And just, go forth and get a sex room. Go and, turn your bedroom into that intimate space that maybe you could walk through and you could actually role play.
Oh! So what would you recommend for a BDSM room, right? Often it's called a dungeon, but whatever someone wants to call it.
Most people know BDSM as dungeons. But they don't have to be dungeons.
It's optional.
It's optional. They can be another space entirely. It depends what play you're into. If I go back to the polyamorous family that I did for the show, they were each and every one of them had their own particular, I suppose, kink. Rope play was one. One loved sort of like thick rope, feeling it rasp against the skin. There was bukkake was involved. So all those things that are coming at me from different places from talking to the individuals, like one of them wanted to be a voyeur.
Yeah. So let's not miss an opportunity for a definition. Bukkake is generally when someone lies in the center and people ejaculate on top of them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So the room that they had previously had carpet on. I was like, for fuck's sakes, really, have you just put up, you've
That's
got carpet?
one heavy task, grab and ask. You're like,
I was like, no.
Come clean up the carpet.
Yes.
Minimum 2 hours, done.
Have we got anybody got a Stanley steamer handy? It was one of those things of like, okay, we need to put a drain in here. Well, a lot of people say, oh yeah, put a drain in. It's not quite that easy because you have to, a drain, the flooring has to be angled towards the drain so that if you are hosing anything down or washing anything down, it gravitates towards the drain. But we had to do it very carefully because I wanted to bring in some bondage furniture, and the problem is I didn't want it sort of like leaning at an angle because that wouldn't fucking right, would it? I mean, that would just be, you'd have stuff rolling around the place.
Yeah.
So it was quite interesting talking to the contractors and getting that worked out and, getting it all everything pushed to the center,